welcome back.
To T or not to T? This is my question. In the LGBTQ, the T keeps getting bigger, in my view, to the globalists and the elitists and pushing it on our kids. But great panel to talk this through with today. Brandon Straka is with us from the WalkAway movement. And Michael E. Mason joins us, Air Force veteran and founder of FreeFiltering.org. And, of course, our resident knockout artist is with us, as always. So that whole lifestyle conversation, I want to keep that going. Sorry for the poor reference, but, I think there's a lot of trickiness out there with even the words you say. We were talking about it before, like, you don't know who you're going to tick off anymore. What are your thoughts?
I think that gay people, like Brandon, I don't think there's anything wrong with his lifestyle. I think that if you're an adult and you choose to have a certain lifestyle, that's fine. The problem that I have is when kids are being indoctrinated to take medical treatments to change their sex and to mutilate their bodies, when men are coming into female sports and taking championships and titles. Now you're encroaching on me. I'm a libertarian, and I believe live and let live, unless you're hurting me or hurting somebody else. My brother is gay, and he is one of the most beautiful people, the most patriotic people. Brandon's a true patriot that has been on the side of freedom for a long time. So I think that we as Republicans need to kind of start watching our language before we push away before we start pushing away these people that are our allies, that have become very strong allies in the Republican Party.
I disagree. Speaking of the Bible,
are you kidding me?
Speaking of the Bible, St. Paul, who died for preaching the gospel that Jesus Christ was crucified, rose again, and ascended back into heaven. In one of his epistles wrote, neither fornicators, that's me, neither adulterers, okay, neither homosexuals, nor greedy.
You too, right?
Yes, Jesus Christ said if a man lusts in his heart after another woman, he's committed adultery, right? So have I struggled with that in my life? Do I have sexual sin in my past? Yes, but I don't embrace my sin as the core part of my identity because I want to inherit eternal life. And I'd say your brother's probably a beautiful man. He's probably a wonderful man, very patriotic. But I would say, because I love him, I'd tell him, do not embrace this orientation, these desires you have.
It simply is. It's not embracing anything. People are born gay.
Yeah. No. Okay, 9%, only 9%, only.
Brandon would never hook up with me as hot as I am. There's no way this guy's hooking up with me, and I feel this. I would know if he wanted to. I have that sense.
Of course,
Hang on.
Good.
Did you say as hot as you are?
As hot as I am,
Complimenting
Brandon.
your hotness,
I
your own
feel when
hotness?
guys are attracted to me, and it's like a vibe that you get as a female, and he is not attracted to me.
It's true, and I also agree.
And
that
that's
you're very
crazy.
Hot. Yeah, and
Which
I agree
is
that you're
crazy
very
to
hot,
me, but
and
I sense it.
I agree that if I were oriented to be heterosexual, I would be very attracted to you.
Thank you.
But I'm not, unfortunately. I do
Everyone's
agree with your
attracted
point,
to
though.
her.
I do agree with her point, though. I think that this type of rhetoric, look, we as Republicans, I'm a Republican, are not in a luxurious position right now that we should be pushing away any voters or we should be pushing away anybody who would be a part of our movement.
That's a good point.
That rhetoric is not going to help. It's not. And I mean, I actually agree with Kara. I agree with your ability to, create the product that you want to create and have the opinion that you want to, and your type of Christianity, which probably offends you, but I don't mean to, because not all Christians agree with you. I mean,
no,
yeah,
absolutely not.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
What you're saying is not going to encourage Gen Z voters to come over and become Republicans. It's not going to encourage Black and Hispanic and minority voters to come over, because it sounds kind of like the old guard stereotypical bigoted Republican. Yeah. And I'm not calling you bigoted, to be clear.
I don't care if you do.
But that understood.
Just call him it. He said he's homophobic. So
but that's what it sounds like.
The
and it
others
doesn't
say.
sound like an appealing. You talk about lifestyle. It doesn't sound like an appealing lifestyle to people to feel the way that you feel.
Okay, here's the deal. I don't care about pushing people out of the Republican Party. Christ said, my kingdom is not of this world. I don't care if Gen Zs don't vote Republican. I want Gen Zers to go to heaven, okay? So who cares? You're actually losing a large percentage of people that have gone apathetic and won't even show up to vote for Republican candidates because they've embraced the ideology that you want them to embrace. So maybe Republicans gain a small sliver of voters, but they've pushed away people like me that are like, I'm not going to show up and vote for Trump.
Well, you wouldn't vote for Trump. He had 2 divorces. He's not
you know
good
what? The
enough for
first
you.
time around, I did not vote for him because I thought he was morally bankrupt. John the Baptist got his head cut off for telling Herod, hey, you've sinned by marrying your...
But you have changed your mind.
Okay, I voted for him the second time around because I thought he was the least, or whatever, the best of two bad alternatives.
So you voted for Trump.
The second time, not the first time.
You voted for Trump.
I
I
did.
voted for Trump. I don't know if you disclosed.
Second time, 2020, I did.
Okay. So
Hey,
we
we have
have
that comment.
reached consensus on one thing. 3 years ago, we all voted for the same person. So
Yeah.
we have some commonality at the table.
Sure.
That's a win. You filter yourself.
What do you mean?
You said you're an adulterer. That's non.
Well, I'm saying an adulterer in heart, right?
Filter yourself.
Yes, every day.
You do.
Every day.
But on the computer,
Every
he
day,
means.
Christ said, if anyone wants to come after me, he has to take up his cross and deny himself.
Got
So
it.
the adulterer in my heart, that's my fallen nature. I have to pick up my cross every day and deny that and filter it every day.
Got it.
And
it's
he
a
also,
daily
Christ
struggle.
also said when the men wanted to stone the woman who was an adulteress, throw the first stone if you haven't
Yeah,
sinned.
if you haven't sinned, right? So I don't throw stones,
You
right?
do.
I'm not throwing stones.
Oh well, I don't think he is.
I'm not
So
throwing
it's
stones.
Kind of clever that they're saying, "Hey, we're going to keep."
I
it
love
out."
Brandon.
You love Brandon.
I love Brandon. I love to buy him lunch later and just be his friend. I'd love to give him my phone number. Call me anytime. I'm not
saw
throwing stones at you.
Actually hugging.
I gave him a
a
hug.
very handsome.
So
gay
what kind of
hairdresser.
what kind of homophobe hugs a
So
homosexual?
then you're not a homophobe.
Well, I don't think so.
And then, all right, so then you're not homosexual. He's not a homophobe.
So confused.
I do appreciate it from both you guys, and I may bring you back for a little extra after hours segment where we're going to really get the gloves off, and that's dangerous with her. But do you want to say anything else before I end? the
No,
segment?
all I want to say is that, I think it's great to have two people on opposite ends and be able to come to a respectful understanding. I think that's important.
And we got more conversation on the hostile takeover by the transgender on the LGBTQ movement. Is it real? We'll talk about it more right after this. Don't move. All right, welcome back. You're watching Wise Guys. Now, these guys were so nice. We did it twice. We bring them back again. I'm joined, of course, by my resident knockout artist and journalist, Kara Castronova. Michael Lee Mason joins us. He's FreeFiltering.org, committed to keeping only Christian values on the social media in your home. And the man himself, the founder of the WalkAway movement, Brandon Straka, joins us again. Thank you, guys. So lots of opinions here at the table. I feel like when Karen and I go out and talk to people in the streets, that most people are okay with this stuff. Pride, this, that, do what you want. That's what I feel the sentiment out there is. But once they feel like they're going after pushing this on the kids, that's when I think the mama bears kind of come flying out and things change. What do you think, Brandon?
Well, I think people are starting to recognize that there's this colossal overreach that's happening right now, because there was a time, years ago where pride meant something like, look, let's provide, equality and empowerment for a group of people who have felt, marginalized in the past. Now it's ubiquitous with the entire month of June. It's everywhere. You can't walk down the street without seeing 1,000 pride flags. And then it's spilled over. If you go into Target, here's an example. Target now has this enormous pride section right when you walk in the door. And it's really interesting because if it's Christmas or if it's any other holiday season, they kind of stick it in the back. But pride is right there in the front when you walk in the door. And they don't just have pride t-shirts and hats and things like that for grown-ups. It's like baby onesies. And what I find even more kind of, I think, egregious is these little candy houses and little toys and things like that, where it's really clear that they're trying to sort of target this message to young kids. And I think what we might disagree with is, I don't think they're trying to turn kids gay. You can't
Trying to normalize the thought process.
Well, but they're also pushing a political agenda. And to me, this is what I get upset about. And a lot of people who are in the LGBT community who are pushing back against this is that our community is being hijacked and used under the guise of pushing equality or fairness, but they're really pushing a political agenda. Even with these drag queen story hours, it's not just drag queens reading to kids.
You are not going to be able to get the major corporations to back down from transing our kids, because the same elite billionaires who funded the Pride movement over the last 2-3 decades and told our kids that it's healthy to be gay or lesbian, they're the same ones funding the trans movement, okay? So they have an agenda. The agenda is to convince kids that they can choose whatever they want to be. Instead of saying, hey, God created me male or female, He has a design for my sexuality and how I ought to live it out in my life, they want to convince our kids, hey, you're gay, you're lesbian, you're trans. It's all part and parcel from the very wealthy elite people that are forcing this down our throats. So I wish you success at getting them to stop transing our kids, but they won't, because they're the same ones who have financed the Pride movement for the last 30
Do you
years.
think there's two sexes?
I do believe that there's two sexes, and I think that really what the Democrat Party is good at is making voters and people that they're targeting to vote for them feel like they're marginalized and they're not included. There was a time and a place, I'd say in the 90s maybe, when gay rights was a real legitimate thing and people were fighting for gay rights and they had reason to. They didn't have a right to get married.
No doubt about it.
They didn't have a right to do a lot of things, but now they do. And again, I'm not negating kids that might really feel like they're a male or female, but I do think it's being really pushed by the Democrat Party looking for new voters to tell that they're hated.
That's why I tried to draw that distinction before. At the very beginning of our conversation, I said they're telling people who are not transgender that they're transgender and that they're sort of making up these different identity groups, et cetera.
We're supposed to be a republic, 50 states, the states have rights. How about if they say, each state, whatever age you could drink, drive a car, and get a tattoo, that's the age a kid should be able to decide if he can get some medical treatment to change his sex. Is that
I think it's
fair?
too young. You can drive at 16.
I'm
Some
saying,
people
so you
drive at
think
15.
even 16 is too young?
I do.
So it would certainly help if states passed laws that say, hey, you can't start this process until you're at least a legal 18. At least 18. I can't sign up to go risk my life for my country until I'm 18, but yet I can go mutilate my body. In fact, I'm embarrassed that the VA, when I go to the VA and fill out forms at the VA, right? They've got all these ridiculous things now. If I could probably go get a transition surgery at the VA for free and a lot quicker than I could get a vasectomy reversed.
What makes you want to tell people to walk away from Democrats and come to a Republican lifestyle?
Right. So I would say the primary thing is, and it actually does come back to the fact that I'm gay. I was a lifelong Democrat, lifelong liberal. And it was the election of Donald Trump that began the catalyst. It's too long of a story to tell now, but it began the process of me realizing that I was being lied to, manipulated, and deceived by the media that I had been trusting my entire life, the left-wing media. And they're doing the same thing to black and brown and other minorities, as well as everybody in general. So my message has always been simply and clearly, these people are not your friends, they're not your allies, they're lying to you, they're manipulating you, they're exploiting you, and they're deceiving you and making you feel like you live in a system in a country that is unsafe, that is unfair, and that is set up and designed to make sure that you are oppressed and that you systematically cannot succeed. I'm here to say that's a lie. And I appreciate the fact that the Republican Party is a party that believes in individual freedom and believes that the American dream is alive and well for everybody.
Yeah, my final thoughts are to Republicans, and I know I said this last week, please be careful with your speech because you don't want to turn off patriotic friends like Brandon and others that have been freedom fighters from the very beginning, against the vaccine, that were allies of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is actually one of the biggest Republican advocates for the gay community. I think he really raised the bar when it comes to other Republicans. So he had Mike Pence, who was traditionally against gay marriage, from what I believe, as his vice president. But he said on the national stage, the gays love Donald Trump.
All right, guys, we're gonna have to leave it there. But thank you so much, Brandon. Thanks for coming to town and giving us some of your time. Michael Lee Mason, Kara, you're the best. Thank you so much, and all of you. Continue what you're doing. Wise Guys Nation continues to grow. Keep the feedback coming. And you know this, every single week when you tune into Wise Guys, no matter who's at the table, you will be guaranteed 3 things. Truth.
Justice.
And the American way.
We'll see you again next week right here on Wise Guys.